Alright guys, welcome into another instructional video. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I thought it would be a good idea to kind of cover the event that I played in immediately following the Millionaire Open. So the previous weekend I had spent in Las Vegas playing 7 people in the 1800 to almost 2000 rating category. So definitely was pretty happy about my performance overall in that event. I drew 3 games, I won 2 and I lost 2. My score could have been higher, but definitely was still happy with the fact that I had 3.5. I had never played a 7-round tournament. I'd be lucky if I could play, 7 people in the 18 to 19 to 2000 rated category in a year here in Idaho. Much less than one weekend. So even though this event coming back to Idaho was definitely not going to be the strongest of categories in comparison, I definitely just wanted to maintain that focus, have respect for all of my opponents, and just bring a focus into each and every game. So this was a 4-round tournament held in one of the local game stores here in Idaho. The first games were pretty easy, but that's kind of to be expected considering the rating difference in the first 2 matchups, and they were game in 60 with no delays, so straight up both sides had 60 minutes. In the first round I was paired against a 1250 and I just wanted to bring focus into this game, and I decided to try something I've only used 2 prior times over the years in tournaments, and that is the move bishop c4. Now, obviously, I can start with knight f3. It's typically the standard move, knight c6, and then the bishop can come out. This is a little different. Just bringing the bishop out first opens up a couple of different possibilities in the position that don't normally exist. But there still are a lot of possibilities of this move, just transposing back to some other openings that you would play knight f3 first. My opponent played knight f6, so right away he's attacking this e4 pawn. And here there's a variety of responses. d3, knight c3, knight f3, a counter-attacking on e5, which was what I opted to play. And he played knight c6. If he jumps right in and takes on e4, a very, very strong move is castles, followed by d4. And then with his king in the center of the board, he has to play very carefully in order to not get a very bad position here. But my opponent opted to play knight c6. And I just played d3. So just solidifying my center, my e4 pawn. I have castles available at my disposals whenever I want to. My opponent played d5, which is a really, really strong move. And I haven't looked at these lines in detail in a long time. All I remembered is there's this move, all I still remember now is there's this move bishop b3. And then on de4 you go knight g5. It's very strong. So ed5 is also a move. But I opted to play bishop b3. I was a lot more familiar with this line around that time. My opponent took on e4 and then I played knight g5. And here I think is really where the game started to go downhill. My opponent was not sure what to do at this point. Obviously, the big threat going on here for white is the bishop and the knight are tag teaming on f7. And so black needs to do something to address this threat. And he played bishop e6, to which you have multiple options. You can take with the bishop and then take with the knight, or you can take with the knight and then the bishop. I opted to take with the bishop. And I think I was still doing a little bit of debating here on whether knight e4 was the best decision or knight e6 was the best decision. And I think I decided that on knight e4, I think this is good for black. I know he has double e-pawns. But first of all, we are being forced to move. So black is already ahead in development, 2-0. And I can't really exploit these double pawns here. And A weakness is really only a weakness if it can be exploited, guys. That's something to remember in your games. And black would just have a really good position here already. So I decided that 96 was actually the way to go. Which is interesting. Interesting, the computer absolutely hates this move. Obviously, he needs to move his queen, and then I took and took. And I do actually now remember this situation. I was a little bit worried, actually a little bit concerned here, that I had played this very badly. Because on DE4, he can just take my queen and take with the knights. And he has developed 3 pieces. He's ready to develop the last one and get his king to safety. And he's also just got 2 attackers on F2. I am in big trouble at this point. So already here, after I take on F8, I'm thinking, I can't take on E4. That's not a move. So here I sat for a little while and said, well, you know, mistakes are going to happen in games, and sometimes you just have to look to try to find the best way to try to dig yourself out of it. And I decided I'm going to play knight c3 and just see what he plays. After castle, I'll castle first, and then castle, I'll play knight c3. And my opponent can take, and I think what I was going to do was just bring the queen to b3 or a4, and then bring my pieces out and try to attack him on the queen side. Yeah, black is much better, if not just winning, but the plus side I have in this game now is still that I'm playing at 1250. So not all hope is lost at this point. So just let me get back to the move. He did not. Okay, this is not what happened. I ended up actually, I took on e4, and this also looks like a blunder, because on knight e4 we can't go de4, because he's going to take twice on d1, and we're just checkmated. So what did I see here in this position that allows me to play knight e4 and allow this knight e4? Because it looks like I'm in trouble. What I actually saw is that there's queen g4 check. Queen g4 check. This clever in between move. To which my opponent, I can't remember what he played. Okay, rook d7, and then I took back on e4. So now I've gone from being much, much worse, if not just losing, to actually just slightly worse. This is now okay for me. The bishop's going to come out. My rooks can come out. Yeah. So I was definitely feeling happy here, considering the early turn of events. And he played queen d4, which just simply gives me h7, which I took. And e4. e4 is a very interesting move. I can't remember too much what I was concerned about here. And why I didn't play queen e4, because I decided to play bishop e3, which is still a really good move, gaining a tempo on his queen. And here my opponent played a very, very... It looks like it's a strong move, but it's not. g5. So it kind of looks like he's ignoring the fact that that his queen is under attack, but he's actually attacking my queen. So now I need to take his queen, or I need to move my queen. And I opted to just take on e4, just get a pawn. And my opponent traded. Typically when you're in a position where you're down material, you don't want to trade the queens off, because that just makes it a little easier. And from this point on, it's all a matter of simplification. So g4. I'm up 3 pawns, so trade equal for equal the rest of the way. That's going to eliminate my opponent's counter chances. And I should be able to just cruise to a win, so I played f4, offering more exchanges. My opponent comes in knight f3, so even when we're winning, guys, we never want to let our guard up. He's threatening knight f3 check. He has 2 attackers here. And I just opted to push. And my opponent played rook g8, king h1, and knight g4. So now he's hitting this piece here. And I could go to g1, but I found a much, much more active plan. And that was rook g1. It's basically saying if you take on e3, I'm going to take your rook. And the rooks are going to come off and I'm just completely winning. So rook g1, very, very strong. At this point, my opponent just has to try to come up with tricks if he's not going to resign. So he played rook h7. Again, we're asking ourselves what our opponent is threatening. He's threatening rook h2 checkmate. Pushing the pawn to either one of these squares allows him to just take it, and then we're in big trouble. So I played rook g2. Defending h2, keep in mind, guys, knight e3 is still not a move. We take the rook with check. Rook g7, so now he's trying to take on e3 and win a piece. But we play rook a to g1. Now if he takes, we have two attackers, and we're just winning that position. So I'm utilizing this pin on his knight to maintain a big winning advantage here. King d7, and now we start harassing that rook. Harass the rook. Remember, if he ever moves that rook to the side, then we're just going to take twice on g4. Okay, now he's trying to say, you can't take my rook because this h-pawn is pinned to your king. But I have two attackers on this rook. So rook g4. And rook h5. At this point, he was already losing, but he blunders his rook on h8. Start pushing the pawns. You can win this a variety of different ways. This was just how I opted to do it. And here I decided to have a little fun. You can just move your rook. You can double the rooks. Or you could just play e7 and say, take my rook. And f7. And he can't stop me from queening one of my pawns. He's going to be forced to give up a rook for one, and then he's going to have no pieces left. So that was round one. Not super, super instructional. I think the important thing to just remember is in your games, especially when you're the favorite, if you mess up early, like I did somewhere here in the opening, don't freak out. Don't panic about it. Just continue to try to find the best moves. Maintain your confidence, especially if you're playing people who are hundreds of points below you, because they're probably going to make a blunder back. And if they don't, well, that just means they might just be a little bit underrated. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that first game. First couple are not super, super educational, but the last two are going to be a lot of fun. And I'll see you guys later for the next video. Thanks for everything.